A Baltimore state's attorney, who is also a real estate investor, is being indicted on federal fraud charges for falsifying mortgage applications. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the issue of mortgage fraud, but it's also going over the issue of public corruption. Okay, and so we have a public official up in the city of Baltimore. It's the Baltimore state's attorney. Her name is Marilyn Mosby, and she was indicted for perjury and for fraud in terms of how she filled out her mortgage applications. And I've already read this article and I've seen exactly what she did, and it seems like a pretty clear-cut case if they have, the evidence proving that what she did is true in terms of the mortgage fraud. Okay, so these are the kind of things that I know that some people get away with that she did. And, because people have been getting away with it for so long, people don't really think much about it. However, at any point in time, the bank, if they really wanted to check into somebody, they could easily figure out whether a person was doing everything correctly or not. And these banks, they're not going to back down because, they're talking about money here, and that's their business. The business of banks is money. Now, when we have a politician in place, right, they want to make example out of her. So they're going to hit her hard. And believe me, if she filled out any mortgage applications with false information and they can prove it, well, she's going to have the book thrown at her. So yeah, it doesn't make me feel bad though, knowing that a politician, got what they deserved after they did something that was illegal. Okay. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know, have you ever known anyone who has ever, fudged a little bit on a mortgage application? Okay, I can say honestly, I have never done that, but I have heard stories of people that I know who have basically put on a mortgage application, oh yes, I am buying this as a non-owner occupied home, or I'm buying this as an owner occupied home, and really they planned on using it as a rental. They just wanted to get that low 5% down payment for that property, and then they completely switched up after the closing had already gone through. So the people that I know who did that, obviously they never were caught, and they didn't see anything wrong with it, but the bank could have come after them at any point in time, and everyone knows that what they were doing wasn't right. They were lying, they were falsifying the application, and it's illegal. Okay, and this is something that a state's attorney should have known before she got into anything. It just kind of surprises me that people who supposedly are so smart can be so dumb and make stupid mistakes like this. Now, this article is coming from BaltimoreMagazine.com, and it says, Marilyn Mosby indicted on federal fraud and perjury charges. Let's see what it says. A federal grand jury indicted Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby on charges of perjury and falsifying mortgage applications related to the purchases of 2 Florida homes, as well as lying about financial hardship claims due to COVID-19, the U.S. Department of Justice announced Thursday afternoon. Potential federal charges have hung over Mosby, 41, since last March, when federal prosecutors subpoenaed her campaign records and the business records of her husband, City Council President Nick Mosby, as well as other tax and bank documents from the couple. The arrival of federal agents at City Hall last spring came just 2 years after the FBI raid of City Hall that led to the arrest and conviction of former Mayor Catherine Pugh on fraud and tax evasion charges. Wow, so the former mayor of Baltimore also got, arrested and convicted of fraud. So it sounds like Baltimore is a pretty corrupt place. Okay, we've got the mayor getting arrested. Now we got the state's attorney getting arrested. Give me a break. Nick Mosby was not charged with wrongdoing in the indictments. Marilyn Mosby, a 2-term incumbent, is currently running for re-election. let's hope that nobody votes for somebody with this kind of cloud hanging over their head. Okay, I mean, this is ridiculous. The voters deserve a better candidate than this. Okay, somebody who is being indicted for fraud. According to the 4-count indictment, in May 2020 and December 2020, State's Attorney Mosby submitted a coronavirus-related distribution request for separate withdrawals of $40,000 and $50,000 from the city's deferred compensation plans. In both instances, the indictment alleges Mosby falsely certified that she qualified for a tax-free distribution as defined under CARES Act by experiencing adverse financial consequences from the coronavirus as a result of being quarantined, furloughed, or laid off work, having reduced work hours, being unable to work due to lack of childcare, or the closing or reduction of hours of a business she owned or operated. So yeah, back when the pandemic first started, they kind of changed the rules so you could make a withdrawal from your retirement plan. I remember this. So, like let's say you have a 401k, right? Normally the withdrawal limits say that if you make a withdrawal from your retirement plan, then you get hit with penalties and high taxes, etc. So because so many people had lost their work and lost their income during the initial stages of the pandemic, they made it so that, okay, we're going to take those penalties and those taxes away and you can make a withdrawal. Well, apparently she made that withdrawal even though she didn't actually suffer any sort of financial hardship, because she was working in this job as the state's attorney at the time. So she didn't lose her job. She didn't lose her income, yet she fraudulently said she did so that she could make those withdrawals. And I believe she used that money so that she could actually make the purchases of the real estate. So she was making, she made false claim to make the withdrawal so that she could buy real estate with it. So she wasn't even using the money for anything, financially related other than, trying to buy investment properties. I mean, this sounds corrupt. Now, it is her money. But she should have paid, if she wanted to take that money out, she should have paid taxes and penalties on it because she didn't need it. The indictment alleges that Mosby did not experience any such financial hardships due to COVID-19 and notes Mosby received her full salary of more than $247,000 from January 1st, 2020 through December 29th, 2020, which was in fact a nearly $10,000 increase from 2019. In recognition of the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic faced by many Americans, individuals undergoing financial hardship are allowed to withdraw retirement account funds and avoid the immediate 10% tax penalty under the federal coronavirus relief package passed in 2020. Wow, so yeah, she made over $247,000. And yes, she was claiming she experienced some sort of financial hardship. She actually got a pay raise when the pandemic was going on. I mean, it was a complete lie. Okay, so that's a joke, and it's pretty easy for them to prove this. Okay, because she probably had to fill out something that said, hey, I was facing an economic hardship in order so that she could make that withdrawal. So I mean, I don't see her beating at least that charge at all. The indictment also alleges that in July 2020 and September 2020, as well as in January 2021 and February 2021, Mosby made false statements in mortgage documents related to the purchase of a $490,500 home in Kissimmee, Florida, and a second $428,400 condominium in Longboat Key, Florida. As part of both applications, according to the indictment, Mosby failed to disclose, as required, that she had several years' worth of unpaid federal taxes. Specifically, she also failed to disclose that in March 2020, the IRS had placed a $45,000 lien against the Reservoir Hill home she owned with her husband and the amount of unpaid taxes the couple owed the IRS. Specifically, she and her husband owed the IRS taxes of more than $45,000 in 2014, which they did not pay, and more than $17,000 in 2015, which they did not pay, resulting in the IRS placing a $45,000 lien on the couple's Reservoir Hill home. At various times, Nick Mosby claimed the tax debt had been paid off and denied any lien had been placed. So yeah, they screwed up big time. Now I know for a fact every time I apply for a mortgage, they always ask you, do you have any sort of a federal, unpaid federal debt that you owe? They always ask that, and you have to right there, and you have to sign that no, I have no unpaid federal debt. Meanwhile, they have $45,000 in taxes that they owe. This is typical. That we've got a politician up here. Not only are they not paying their own taxes, they're falsifying these forms, cheating out these banks of money. I mean, the bank wouldn't have even lent them the money if they knew that. So this is just, I'm sure this lady is just corrupt as hell, okay? And who knows, if they're willing to falsify all this stuff for a mortgage, what else is she doing wrong? Okay, that's my question. Is she taking bribes under the table? I'm not saying she is, but this kind of thing would open her up to suspicion. And, that's my point right there. This is why we can't have corrupt politicians in office. That's why they need to get, she needs to leave. She needs to resign, because this is a complete farce and a joke, okay? Finally, according to the indictment, Mosby signed what's known as a second home rider on the Kissimmee house, which stated that she would use the property as her second home and not a rental property for at least a year. The indictment alleges that by falsely executing the second home rider, Mosby could obtain a lower interest rate on the mortgage that she would not have received without it. The indictment alleges she had lined up a private company to manage the property as a short-term rental prior to closing on the home. A story initially broken by the Baltimore Brew last year. Yeah, good job on the reporters for getting that, because she intended from the very get-go to rent it out as a short-term rental. So she had no intention of using it as a second home. Now, I know some people will buy a second home and then rent it out sometimes, but that doesn't sound like it's the case in this situation, okay? So, yeah, corrupt politician, the walls are closing in on her, okay? I hope that she gets kicked out of office, or, if she was smart, she would just resign. But, this is pretty typical. And this is actually a good lesson for real estate investors as well, okay? You can't slide by in this gray area. Sometimes people do get caught doing this stuff, okay? When you're saying on these applications, hey, I'm going to use this as my primary residence, and you're not doing it, or if you're going to use it as a secondary, you're not doing it, well, hey, the bank could check on that, and you could end up getting charges filed against you. You could end up the loan getting called. Who knows what could happen, but it's a bad deal overall. Be honest on these applications. Dot your I's, cross your T's, do everything according to the law. That's what I have always said.